Portfolios, everybody's favorite assessment tool. But how are you using your portfolio? That's the question. So, getting a little bit Hamlet on you, I want to go and talk a little bit about the two different ways that portfolios can be organized. It might be helpful to think about them as philosophies of portfolio use, although it depends on how you want to look at it, and whether you're talking about the course level or the program level. But generally speaking, portfolios can be broken into two different categories. The first is as a catalog or as a gradebook. That's essentially what you're doing if you're having students collect and then check off particular things inside the portfolio to show that they've done it. So whenever a student has finished something, you'll see a checkbox appear, and you can be sure that the student has already accomplished it, so at the end of a program or a course, you can make sure that students have submitted all their work. Maybe you could use it to export a CV or something along those lines. But that's generally not the way that we want to use portfolios if we want to optimize them. Now, if the goal really is to help students be successful, what we want to do is think about portfolios as an advisory and longitudinal assessment tool. So rather than just being a repository or a place where we store information about student performance and work, we're actually going to use the portfolio as a way for students to demonstrate something that they've done. And not only demonstrate it, but demonstrate it over a long period of time so that we can see growth, have them reflect on it, and annotate those reflections with commentary that's essentially going to help them be better at what they're trying to do. So instead of having one checkbox, you might imagine having 3 checkboxes. And rather than having those checkboxes operate as simply done or not done, pass or fail, there might be some kind of other metric you would use, for instance, a rubric. Now, rubrics can be organized from below expectations to exceeds expectations, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. You can have more or fewer categories depending on what that is. Now, after a student uploads something to this portfolio, you might give them a little bit of an assessment that involves maybe a sad face or some low level of the rubric that you've assigned to them. And that's going to tell students not that they've failed or that they're bad at this thing, but that you want to help them get better. So that the goal isn't to chastise them when they haven't completed something, because who completes something perfectly the first time? It's to give them room to grow, to show them these are the things you need to do to be successful at this task, so that the second time they upload an artifact, maybe they get a little bit better. Their weaknesses are a little bit less, we'll call it stark, than they would have been the first time around. Until finally they're uploading an artifact that demonstrates full competency or exceeding the standard that you want to attach to that particular assignment. So we have a range of things that students can present here, and it's not meant to showcase them at their worst. Really, it's meant to show these intermediary periods where the student is going on and learning and demonstrating that they're able to take their information, their thinking, their analysis from one level to the next. So before you go and use a portfolio as simply check things off or use it as a gradebook, think about what you can do to help your students then take this information and at the end of the course or program, write a reflection. Come up with some kind of commentary on what they learned, what they took away from the process, not just the end product. The end product doesn't tell us anything about whether or not the student learned. It's entirely possible that if all you're using is multiple choice metrics, you're not getting a fuller picture of the student. Here, we're able to look at not only how the student performed at different points along the trajectory of their learning, we're able to get information about why they think they learned or what they think they learned. And then as an advisor, we can go in and add commentary here that's going to talk about what their strengths and weaknesses are and how they can continue to get better and grow outside of the classroom environment. So when it comes to portfolios, I'd strongly recommend the second type, this advisory or assessment type. Because when it comes to cataloging information, that doesn't tell us much about the individual student. We really want to know what can they do to show us that they've learned something so that we can ensure that they're lifelong learners and that they've not only learned the content, but also how to approach the content and similar challenges in the future.